Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney shut down a Fox News host's nonsense defense of Donald Trump. Yesterday, Liz Cheney appeared on Bret Baier's show on Fox News. Liz Cheney is, of course, the former Republican Congresswoman who spoke out against Trump's efforts to overthrow a democratic process to install himself as the president. And because of that, Republican voters quickly removed her from her position of power, because that is the modern Republican Party, a super conservative individual who voted with Trump almost every opportunity that she had, dares to say, maybe we shouldn't shred our Constitution in favor of Trump and should allow for the peaceful transfer of power. And her career is over, at least in the GOP, pretty instantly. Crazy stuff. Well, she released a book where she talks about her experience after the 2020 election, watching Republicans go along with Trump's lies about the election, watching so many of them root on or even participate in Trump's attempts to unconstitutionally stay in power, and so many different things. And while discussing her book with Bret Baier, Baier tries to pose a counter argument to Liz Cheney, who's warning about Trump's dictatorial ambitions for a second term. And Baier essentially says, well, aren't Trump and Biden like sort of the same? I mean, Biden signed some executive orders and tried to readjust policies to get around Supreme Court rulings. And Liz Cheney correctly shuts it down.
Specifically, and I understand what you're saying about the former president, what you feel about what would happen, but you haven't been vocal. But you haven't been vocal about President Biden when, like, executive orders to cancel student loan, ban evictions, mandate COVID vaccines. Well, here's a list.
I think it's a very different thing.
After the SCOTUS ruling,
are you going to let me answer the
question?
Yeah,
I am. Just let me list them. After the SCOTUS ruled against it, he still used regulatory means to write off, the student debt, wall off 1.5 million acres of land for fossil fuel. What this basically is saying is that there are things that have been done outside of the rule of federal courts that you haven't weighed in on.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's true that I haven't weighed in on those. And I think a lot of those, if you look at the kinds of things that he's done with respect, for example, to energy policy, with respect to setting aside lands across the West, I've been very vocal that I think those policies are wrong. It's very different from a president. And look, you wrote a book about George Washington. The last chapter of your book is called The Gift of a Peaceful Transition of Power. That is what we're talking about.
Yeah, but this is not about me.
That's right, but that's a very important concept. Let me finish my answer, because every single president, Republican and Democrat, since George Washington, has ensured the peaceful transition of power. Donald Trump tried to seize power. So we can disagree with Biden policies, but the fact that he tried to seize power, the fact that he ignored the rulings of
Republican Congress